Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about Macbeth by William Shakespeare, and we're going to be thinking about the audience and how the characters appealed to them. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help you revise for English language and for English literature. Okay, let's think about characters and context for William Shakespeare's Macbeth. So, the contextual factors that we need to bear in mind when reading the play or writing about it. Shakespeare was writing for two different audiences. He was writing for King James I, who had him perform Macbeth at Hampton Court, and he was also writing for the Jacobean audience, his audience at the Globe Theatre in London. So, King James I had just suffered the gunpowder plot. He was fearful of treasonous plots against him. And the Jacobean audience were people who were very superstitious, very preoccupied with ideas of fate and destiny. They believed that the universe had an order to it and that things were meant to happen. And both of those audiences would have been fascinated by witches. This play was written during the time that witches were being persecuted in Britain. King James I had written a book about witches himself. So the use of witches and the inclusion of them in the play would have appealed to both of those audiences. Now let's think about the key characters. So we've got Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. I've given you their evil factor here. So on their top trump cards, we've got Macbeth, who does terrible things and consorts with witches. That gives him 10 out of 10. His King James appeal is also something that ranks quite highly. His story provides a message for the king's subjects. The idea that if you commit treason, you will pay the price for it. So that would have certainly appealed to King James. In regards to the audience, the Jacobean audience, he's someone who tries to cheat destiny, and they were fascinated by fate and destiny. He cheats fate and destiny by committing treason, upsetting the social order, and then that's restored at the end of the play with his death. We've got Lady Macbeth. Evil factor 10. She is a bully, and she's also someone who communicates with evil spirits. So that gives her a 10 out of 10 evil factor. We've got her appeal to King James. Her story also provides a message for the king's subjects. Commit treason or involve yourself in witchcraft and sorcery, and you will pay the price for it. Her death and downfall is evidence of that. In regards to her appeal to the Jacobean audience, she's someone who dabbles in witchcraft and communicates with spirits. She would have been found quite fascinating by them. We've also got the three witches. So they can see into the future and they're witches. I've given them a 9 out of 10 because although they are evil, they are not the ones who commit treason. They do simply show Macbeth his future or suggest it to him, and he acts on that information. He's the one who commits murder. Their appeal to King James. He'd written a book about witches and believed they should be persecuted, so it would have appealed to him greatly to have had the inclusion of witches in the play. In regards to the Jacobean audience, knowing what the future holds was something that they were very fascinated about. They were a superstitious audience. Fate and destiny was something they're fascinated by. So the idea of them being able to look into the seeds of time to see what will grow is something that would have certainly appealed to the Jacobeans. We've also got Banquo. He is an honest and brave character in a tragedy. Someone who is a tragic victim is what we expect. That's a feature of tragedy. So that would have had some appeal. He is the honest and brave, courageous friend of Macbeth who does not deserve to die. In regards to the appeal to King James I had an ancestor called Banquo. He would have loved the reference to his bloodline in the play. That was there to appeal to King James I. The Jacobean audience would have found Banquo to be an appealing character because they would have recognised tragic victims who are virtuous and decent and are something you'd expect to find in a Shakespearean tragedy. We've then got King Duncan. He's not evil, but he is easily fooled. The appeal to King James is high because he's a king who is too trusting, and this perhaps sent a supportive warning to King James to be mindful of others at a time of plots against him. In regards to the Jacobean audience, they believed in the divine right of kings, the idea that kings were guided by God and had the right to rule over man. So plays about royalty appealed to them. The idea that his position at the top of that social hierarchy is upset by Macbeth and then restored at the end is something that they would have seen as righteous and true. We've also got Macduff. He's a key character in Macbeth. and his evil factor is low, but I've given him 1 because maybe his distrust and rivalry with Macbeth comes from jealousy. He is one of the first characters to be suspicious of Macbeth. He doesn't go to see him crowned, and he also is absent from the banquet where Macbeth sees Banquo's ghost. So possibly his distrust, although he is bang on the money, that distrust could come from jealousy. His appeal to King James. Macduff believes in the divine right of kings and fights for truth and honour. He is involved in restoring the social order in his killing of Macbeth, so he would have appealed to King James. In regards to the Jacobean audience, Macduff is an oppositional character to Macbeth and provides a dramatic source of conflict in the play. If you want to take it further, can you explain who Shakespeare was trying to appeal to with Macbeth? There are 2 different audiences he was writing for. Can you also provide contextual analysis for each of the key characters? How might they have appealed to those different audiences is something you need to explore in your exam. Can you link the audience appeal to key quotes from each of the characters? If you're someone that's aiming to do a top band response in an exploration of a character, linking a key quote to the audience appeal is something that will take your response further. Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask for something you'd like to see me cover in the comment section. Feel free to ask me any questions you like about the text itself also. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.